one. Yes, Mr. Lotko.
Mr. President, through you to the consultants, have they had an opportunity to review this data that's been presented here this evening? Mr. Marks.
We received the 65-page document about 10 o'clock on Tuesday morning and have not read it thoroughly, but have looked at it, so we have a general idea what's in it.
Okay. So we have no comment at this time on the information?
You know, my comment is that we believe this is a book of opportunity, and I understand that if someone is critical of your organization, you want to defend it. And I encourage the board to take the 65-page document and to put it into the perspective, and that they be heard. They deserve to be heard. However, what I didn't hear was what are the opportunities to go forward. I'm not real bright, but every time I've walked into this town, you've had less firefighters. Whatever you're doing isn't working. You have less and less and less. What we believe is that there is room within the contract to work to keep people's jobs and provide the protection. There needs to be some trust, and I understand there's a history of perhaps there hasn't been trust. But if both sides really want it, and we can come up and go page by page, we dealt with the data we have, all right? And, you know, I can stand up here and say, the NFPA is not a mandatory standard. The 90% applies to the whole 6 minutes, not just the 4 minutes, not just the turnout time, not just the dispatch time. And the data you have says you meet it. If there's new data that says you don't meet it, and it's been like that for years, I would think that everyone would be very concerned. But I think this is a book of opportunities. And what I didn't hear, and what I hope to hear, and what I hope happens from this, is that you take this and you work cooperatively together to provide the best protection that you can within your fiscal capabilities. There is no question. One of my consultants deals fiscally. That's why I brought him. And my job to him was, tell me if this is a true crisis. Is this city really in fiscal crisis or is it not? And he came back and said, profoundly they are. So there has to be some concessions all the way around. There has to be some trust building. And so I'm very pleased that you allowed Dean to present that document and look at it. I mean, if you want, we can go through. We have different interpretations. We can go item by item. I don't think it's going to be beneficial because I'm not hearing what are the opportunities. And that's where we lie.
Okay. Yes, thank you. Anybody else want to comment?
Well, through you, Mr. Chair, I guess the question is that this data was provided by the 60-page revision, I guess, according to the Elyria Fire Department that they've gathered. I guess, are you going to be willing to take that into consideration and read through that, just to dovetail what Mr. Locko said, or is it just not?
We certainly can read through it. I asked the chief today, you know, have you seen that data? And he's told me, no, he hasn't seen the data. So certainly, I'll be more than happy to review it and look at it. Is it going to change? I don't think it's going to drastically change the report because we wrote it on the data we have. We believe that data to be accurate. You know, the one thing that is very unfortunate is that the first report went out. When it came back to the city, it was not a draft to correct what was said. It was the final report. Dean called our home within 4 hours, and not that he took our home phone number, he didn't do anything wrong, the business phone rings in our home after that. I'll be frankly honest with you, usually when new data appears after the report comes out, I don't put a lot of faith in it. Why you had this all this time, why do we have new data? But he gave very compelling information that we believed he was right. We believed him enough that Dr. Victoria McGrath flew out here 2 days later, which was the first flight she could get because we had a client the next day, spent the whole day with the chief and went through and put out the revised figures. We don't know who released that to the press. We do know that we made a call and asked everyone not to do that because we were going to correct it. It went out. I don't blame the fire department for being upset. I don't know who called the press. I don't know who released it. I don't have any reason to know if it's malicious or not. I'm not making any accusations. To answer your question, we'll be gladly to look at it. Am I going to change the recommendations in the report? No, probably not, for the simple reason that we look at this book as a book of opportunities. Have the fire department sit down with the city and talk about how we can get people to staff adequately and work the number of hours. Because Victoria might share some things, and that will be up to her.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Yes, Mr. Craig.
What I'd like to see come out of this, and I appreciate everybody's time here, and obviously there's been a lot of effort on behalf of the fire department to come through and try to provide some information and supplement the report or replace it. I think there are a lot of things that are in this audit that wouldn't change based on that information also. But what I'd like to see is the administration of the fire department come together and put together an action plan to implement items from the audit. Decide what items are we going to implement now. They can identify ones changes that have costs associated with them, changes that have no cost or that are cost neutral, and what items have already been implemented. I heard some good things that have already been done here, but I'd like to see an action plan from a joint effort from the administration and the fire department. And I think that we as council, since we ordered this audit in the first place, should set some kind of a timeline for that.
Okay, thank you. And I believe that address the administration. I think you are working together with the chief at this time, because I've had discussion with the chief, and they're putting together a plan, and maybe we could come up with a reasonable time frame for that with discussions between you, and you can set up a time schedule. I know the report itself has recommendations, and they're based on relative importance, so I think we need to look at that and develop a time frame that we can meet goals for the fire department. And again, with the current fiscal crisis that we're in, I know it's going to be difficult, but I think we need to do it.